Call the planning and zoning meeting to order. Will everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call: John Matthews. Here. Terry Bukowski. Here. Mark Denny. Alex Tomorrow, absent. Wolf Smith. Here. Rocky Hempel. Here. Jeanette Holdeman.
Here.
Jeff Spink.
Here.
And I'm present, Stephen Rosenthal. I have 8 members present. Do I have a motion on last month's minutes? The November's minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Second from Terry.
Terry was the second, and Wolf was. We have a motion and a second on the minutes. Is there any discussion? No. Roll call vote. John Matthews?
Yes.
Terry Bukowski?
Yes.
Mark Daney?
Yes.
Wolf Smith?
Yes.
Rocky Hempel?
Yes.
Jeanette Holloman?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 8-0. Members present. Secretary's report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. We have 2 items that are on the consent agenda. We also have 1 item that we're continuing, a plat. We'll be continuing that to the January Planning Commission case. We have several items on the regular agenda. I do believe that Mr. Van Paris has an item that he would like to address. But other than that, 1 other thing. I'm sorry. Holiday dinner next week. We're excited to have you there. That's all that I have.
Okay.
First of all, I encourage you to attend your holiday dinner. Particularly, I'll let you know right now, I will not be attending.
Is that why we should be there?
But you folks enjoy. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, I hate to interrupt the regular course of your business. However, I note one of the items on your agenda, it's number F, case DEV 19099. Text Amendment Article 19. I'm going to call it the table of uses. I think that's what everyone commonly knows it as. I think we're all aware of some staffing changes in the department. I would like, I'm going to tell you right now, I would like additional time. I have the time now to spend with planning and zoning staff on a committed basis to more thoroughly review these tables. They're very comprehensive, they're very detailed, and in my thought, this table of uses is not just a throwaway item. It will control largely the operation of all of your regulations because it defines all the definitions and all the allowed uses, all the uses that require special use permits. I have questions in my mind that I would like to have satisfied through consultation with your staff. And what I would like to just let you know is I would like to ask you to consider continuing final action on this table, at least until your meeting on February 12th, allowing testimony to be presented and accept that testimony with respect to comments on the tables. But when I go through it, I have a significant number of questions that before I could offer you any advice, I'd like to meet with your staff to be able to basically get a better grasp of it.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a long time.
I know, Mr. Chairman, and if the board, if this commission feels comfortable in proceeding to a final hearing on this matter, that's your prerogative. I just feel it's a very important issue, and if you were to consider that, I would appreciate it. But at the same time, you've got a number of people here who I believe are in attendance for this issue, and if finality is deemed to be the best course of action, certainly take that. But I do believe that there are questions out there. I've received some communications just in the last few days that have, I think, valid concerns that could be addressed and forestall future problems. And that's my statement.
We're on the table.
Is it something we do now, or do we end with approving our agenda, or wait till the item comes up?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to bring it up now so that there'd be some indication to persons in attendance that you You may not take final action on this item tonight. My thought would be to go through your normal agenda, but when you get to that issue, perhaps have it, people forewarned that there's a likelihood you may continue this for future consideration to allow additional input.
So do it with the agenda or not do it with the
Now,
agenda?
do it with the agenda. I just didn't want to drop this to you just before that. I'd like you to have time to think about it before that item comes up.
And staff? I mean, I know you guys been working on this forever and a day, so.
We have been. There have been some concerns raised by the public, and like Mr. Van Paris said, we could have an opportunity, he and I, to meet and go through this very thoroughly and make sure that all of the items that we have proposed are meritable. That being said, like Mr. Van Paris said, it is up to you all. You are correct. We've worked on this for a very long time. And so if you wish to continue it, then we can continue it. If you want to have it tonight, then we'll hear it tonight.
Mr. Chairman, would tabling be the same action? Whether continuing, using words, I mean.
Well, it'd be tabled to the February meeting.
But except, you can open a public hearing on it and continue that public hearing to a later date, possibly your February meeting. That would allow you to accept any testimony from persons present this evening, to discuss it among yourselves, and if you're ready to make a final decision, you can do that. But I would like to offer the suggestion that you be prepared to consider tabling it for additional time.
Could we, if there was an agenda item, could we approve something temporarily, awaiting a final table?
We either have to table it, approve it, or deny it, if we hear it. But we could table it at that time. I'm just talking about people coming. They've been public notified. We're having it. They're here. Just to say, well, thank you, but go home.
Well, I think it's more than that, Mr. Chairman. When you open a public hearing, the statements that are given it's evidence.
I know.
And you can accept that and carry that forward for your thought process. But I do understand that there's a
Well, wouldn't that
level of
help you, give you guidance on how, with hearing from the public, wouldn't that give you some
Certainly.
guidance too?
Certainly. That's why I suggest you invite them this evening.
So what's your thoughts?
We'll table it till staff is ready.
That way you have I agree with Wolf, but that way you have the comments and when we're actually addressing the issue of it.
So we're not going to hear the public today?
Yes.
I would say no,
Yeah.
because you'll forget
No,
what they
you
had
can't.
to say.
No.
Yeah, you really can't. I would agree to table it also. It is a lot more complicated than just looking at the different items and how they've been classified. In fact, I would like another work session on this, to be quite honest with you.
I personally, the patrons are here, I want to hear their comments. And by hearing their comments, that might help myself as far as having a better understanding of what they feel.
I agree, and I think it also helps staff too, so
That is correct.
if the people came tonight and took the time out of their day to come, I think we owe it to them to hear them.
I mean,
So
I
how
still
would we
think
classify
tabling-
that?
We could hear
I
them.
still think tabling it could be an issue. I mean, and
could hear
probably
them and
somewhere we
table.
want to lean to.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, again, my suggestion would be open the public hearing on AEV 19099, accept the public testimony. When that's finished this evening, adjourn the public hearing to a later date. That would be your February hearing. Or you could conclude the public hearing this evening, but perhaps retain the matter by tabling it for additional staff input on the 12th of February.
Okay.
And that's at your discretion. You can open the public hearing, hear testimony this evening, close the public hearing and continue discussion and deliberation, or you can open the public hearing and continue it to another date as well. That's your call.
All right, well, need a motion on the agenda, so who wants to?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda for tonight.
I'll second.
And it's as written and And that's 2 items on the consent agenda and 1 item, I think a plat that was, I think it was item number 3 was continued to January 8th. Is that correct? And we are hearing everything else, we're opening everything else.
That is correct.
Everybody understand that? And Rocky, you,
No.
no, Rocky, Wolf. And, I can't find you. There it is. And Jeanette, maybe. Motion on the floor with a second to approve the agenda, 2 items on the consent agenda, and 1 plat being continued to the January meeting. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote. John Matthews.
Yes.
Kerry Bukowski.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Wolf Schmidt.
Yes.
Rocky Hempel.
Yes.
Jeanette Holdeman.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 8-0. Approved. Okay. Any declarations, anyone? Okay, we'll start with case number DEV 19-103, consideration of application of special use permit for operations of a kennel. Have trouble with that naming again. Popocino's Doggy Care on a tract of land located in Section 16, Township 8 South, Rings 22 East at 6 p.m., Leavenworth County, Kansas, requested by Catherine De La Cruz, also known as 16425 Fort Riley Road. We've already had the public hearing on this, so it is not a public hearing item. Staff report?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is case number DEV 19-103. This is being, we're bringing this back before you from last month. As you recall, staff had a recommendation of denial because this does meet the definition of a kennel, and our concerns are still held. Just give me 1 second here. So a kennel is any place, area, building, or structure on any tract smaller than 20 acres where more than an aggregate total of 4 dogs more than 1 year old are kept, boarded, bred, or trained, whether or not for commercial gain or as pets. Last month, there was quite a bit of discussion about whether or not Popocino's Doggy Daycare was in fact a kennel. By our definition, it is a kennel. But you all gave me direction to come back with recommendations in the event that you chose to recommend approval of this. I have done so. I have given the conditions that we give on every kennel out within Leavenworth County. These are identical to the recommended conditions that were given on the kennel that we heard about 3 months ago. I can go through those if you would like for me to.
I think we want to in this case.
Okay. 1 second to pull them up so everybody can see them. I lost it. Had it pulled up here, but I lost it. Alrighty. So the conditions are that the special use permit shall be limited to a period of 5 years. The hours of operation shall be limited to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. for doggy daycare. That is slightly different because the last one did not have a doggy daycare. However, the hours of operation shall be limited to 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. for boarding. The applicant shall pay a traffic impact fee. The applicant shall provide a certificate of liability insurance. The total number of dogs, including daycare and boarding, shall not exceed 20 dogs per day. All noise generated by this special use permit shall not exceed a decibel level of 60 at the property line. All dogs shall be kept inside a structure constructed to mitigate noise during the hours of 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. A sign within the facility shall be posted stating emergency procedures in the event of severe weather. An emergency plan shall be posted with contact information for responders in case of an emergency. An all-hazard weather radio shall be kept on site. No signage is allowed in the right-of-way. No on-street parking shall be allowed. The applicant shall adhere to the narrative submitted with this application, and the SUP shall comply with all local, state, federal rules and regulations. I believe Ms. Dela Cruz is here if you have any additional questions for her. And as you stated, Commissioner Rosenthal, the public hearing was closed last month.
All right. Well, back here again. We've had a lot of kennels these years. Ones with a lot of opposition, some with no opposition. Nobody spoke for or against, and a lot of them that had opposition. However, on every one of them, we had the same exact requirements. I don't think we varied once on them. And they pretty much meet here. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way on this tract of land with that many dogs that they can keep that 60 decibel. And if I was 100 or 200 feet away and I had that many dogs barking, believe me, I would not be happy. So it's up to you to be consistent. These are our regulations. I don't know how they can ever meet that 60 decibel.
And again, these are suggested recommendations. As this board knows, you are able to modify those, adopt more. But these, again, these are the
That would be changing
conditions.
ones we did for everybody and we've ever done them.
These are the conditions that we use standard for kennels.
Has the decibel level ever been measured?
No, we have not. The dogs are kept on the property line.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way.
So,
There's definitely no way.
No, there's no
Out of
way.
all those conditions, it's the only one
No.
that's just not
But
physically possible.
if they've been on 20 acres or 5 acres or any amount of acreage, the 20 decimal thing has been the key thing on every one of them. I don't think Mark and John, you've been on a long time, you've never varied from that one bit. I mean, the neighbors, I just couldn't imagine that many dogs barking and I'd be happy about it living within a couple hundred feet of it. I'm sorry.
So if I'm allowed to speak, I did go and get
Hey, unless somebody wants, I mean, I don't mind if you guys want to open it up to the applicant only.
Yeah, we have heard from her supporters before, and
Yeah. Okay,
I think so.
all right.
Just the one piece I have is, I understand that that's the regulation that you put on every other kennel. I also know that obviously it's unique anyways, that our plot is a lot smaller than every other kennel. So we're already kind of in a unique situation. And I know that you're concerned about the barking. I understand that. I'm concerned about the barking. I want to be friends with my neighbors, but I also want to run my business, provide a service, and pay my bills. So we did go around and get a petition signed by everyone who shares a property line with us and numerous other families in the affected 1,000-foot radius. And it specifically states in the petition, we intend to show our support, and it should be known that the noise and barking operations within this business are not bothersome nor a hindrance as property owners in a close proximity. So,
Did everyone sign it?
I did not have everyone within the affected area. There is an abandoned property in the affected area, so I did not know how to track down that owner. But everyone who shares a property line with me, yes.
Well,
And then-
that's just with property line, that's 2, 3, 4 people.
Right. Your concern is the decibels at the property line. If you wish, I could go to everyone within the affected area and ask them as well. I did not actually ask everyone, but I specifically.
Well,
got
there was,
everyone who shares a
the
property.
reason you're here is because somebody did complain about the dogs barking. So somebody is affected by it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And when you applied to the state for your license, did they suggest to you to check with county regulations on zoning?
No.
I think they usually do. They might have fell through the cracks, don't they, as a rule?
I don't want to say that that happens, certainly. One of our conditions is, of course, always that you have to abide by state state rules. Should they have said that? Yes. Is it possible that they didn't? Yeah.
Yes, depends on who was there at the
Right.
time, I guess. Yeah.
And
Anyway,
I thoroughly accept all of those other conditions. I have no problem with any of them. It's just, that's the one that's just not physically possible. And unfortunately, my one dog, I mean, I have personal dogs also, so my one dog is,
well, you can have up to 4.
right, but I'm just saying, my one dog in the yard barking, I can yell 60 decibels. I tried it. So, I mean, if I can scream that loud, no way can you have 4 dogs and reach that.
Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah, and it's not meant to stop somebody's pet, but we hope that if the dog is barking that long, that somebody will take care of it and not let it bark. Anyway, any other questions of the applicant?
How far out did you go around your property?
Oh, to see how loud the barking.
No,
is?
to see,
So like the gentleman who was here last time, who was my neighbor, Mr. Ed Yarning, who shares that property line with us. So we share the property line, but his home is actually probably about 300-400 feet back from the play yard. At his home, the decibel level was 60 or under. But of course, at the property line, which is 2 feet off my fence, it's
okay.
higher.
But he signed off, said no problem.
He signed off, yep.
But he was here last time.
And he was here
Yes, he was.
Right.
So everyone around you had no problem.
Correct. We actually have tons of support.
I saw that last
They
time.
quite enjoy our business and seeing dogs. So,
This may be out of line or unimportant, but can you muzzle the dogs when they go out?
so no, I could, but I don't know that the owners would be really happy with that. There's things that you can do. Like I said, we keep them inside during our drop-off and pick-up times. If someone, that's for daycare. Everyone comes right at work time and everyone picks up right at the end of the day. So we bring all the dogs in during those times. When people come to drop their dogs off for boarding, which is in different times of the day, I'm always sure to say, what time are you coming? And I bring all the dogs inside. The things I can't control, the mailman, the Amazon delivery trucks, and things like that, there's really nothing I can't do. My husband and I are outside with the dogs 100% of the time. They're not just barking for absolutely no reason. There is an item, it's a bark collar, so it goes on the dog's neck, and when they bark, it registers that sound and it vibrates to make them stop. We have had dogs who people bring them to our daycare. They obviously use them on their dogs at home, so they come with them. We've never bought a lot of them and put them on the dogs. I don't know. Of course, the owners would have to be okay with it. I can't just put a collar on their dog without asking their permission. I would say that would be an option, but they're still going to bark until that collar is shut. Well, not shut, but vibrates them. So you're still going to get that initial bark. So they're dogs. We do the very best that we can to not have them barking. And I don't know if it's a matter of your conceptualization that there's 20 dogs standing outside barking for 12 hours a day. That's just not what it is. They're quiet almost all the time. So they bark when they're prompted.
How many dogs do you have?
On the regular, so I have 3 of my own. So, they're out there, but on the regular,
On the property.
we usually have about 12 to
12.
15 on a daily basis.
Right.
Our holidays are obviously more, but we average about 7 to 8 or 9 daycare dogs a day, and then support.
Says 20 a day on the thing, is that too high?
I would say for holidays it's not, but for a regular day it is. Like for Christmas, when you have 15 dogs boarding, and then I have 3 of my own, well, yes. But for Tuesday, like today, there's 2 dogs in my house right now, so.
Can you address the waste management that staff has, one of that's an issue?
So we actually compost all solids. We have a 55-gallon plastic barrel. It's buried in the ground on the back of our property. So the solid waste goes into that. It's fed with an organic solid composting enzyme that we order from Australia, actually, from a kennel down there. And so that goes into there once a week with water, and it just basically reduces the solids down to liquid, and they disperse out the bottom. The barrel the bottom's cut off, and so it drains out.
How often do you remove the waste from the property?
About 900 times a day. I mean, for sure.
Do you just follow them around with a little scooper?
We have kind of like a big dustpan with
Uh-huh.
a scoop, and I mean, since we're out there all the time, if I see one piece, I patrol the whole lot. So, I mean, sure, it sounds funny, but no, probably 10 times a day, if not more.
Have you addressed this with staff? Because this is a staff issue.
The waste management? Yes, I notified
Yeah,
them
we've
that
talked
I
about it.
composted the solids, yes.
And staff still has a problem with that?
It's in there that they compost, in the staff report, that they compost the solids. It,
Yeah, but in the staff recommendations, that was one of the issues.
it's still quite a bit of waste. I understand that Ms. De La Cruz does a good job of cleaning up after it, but dogs generate quite a bit of waste when there's that many of them.
They generate more waste in a day than a cow.
Oh, no. 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 But we did just purchase 2 additional barrels. So whenever the ground thaws, we'll have 2 additional, we just purchased 2 additional barrels. So whenever the spring comes, we'll actually have more room. But, I mean, that 55-gallon barrel is not full and has never been full for a year and a half, so.
So there's no smell either then, or is there a smell?
My husband would say it smells like sauerkraut when you take the lid off, but it's just the fermenting of the enzymes. So, but no, it does. You have to take the lid off of it to know that there's anything there. Other than that, I brought a photo of what the composting system looks like, and it's literally just a barrel. So this sticks up out of the ground, and that's it. It has a spring-loaded lock on it. You have to pull a handle open to take the ring off. But it's in the back of our property behind our accessory building, I guess is what it's called. So, buried in the ground.
I have a question to the staff, basically. Let's say that the doggy daycare limited the amount of dogs that it had there. I mean, 20 dogs, that's quite a lot of dogs. I'm a dog lover and I know how they are. Would there be any leeway in restricting the amount of dogs? I know we're still on the 1.3 acres. I really haven't changed my mind since last time. So I'm asking if there are any ways to work through this by maybe restricting the amount of dogs.
So when I spoke with Ms. De La Cruz a couple of weeks ago and let her know about the typical conditions that we would have, which again, 20 dogs is a typical condition that we have. She had indicated that with the number of dogs she spoke about during holiday seasons and such, that she would be pushing that number. So while the staff is open to whatever direction you provide, one, that again is a standard condition, and 2, it was based upon Ms. De La Cruz's business operations. So if that's something she is open to, then certainly staff is open to amending that condition.
I guess my question is, though, would it make a difference?
We still can't get around the 60 decibels at the property line.
Right. Sure, because have that one dog that's noisy.
That's the one dog that's noisy, but, yeah. I mean, I had one dog who was barking for a long time by us, and it was a half a mile away, and I could hear it fairly good. It wasn't 60
Well-
decibels, but
Dogs
I mean,
bark.
It was still very annoying, but wasn't so much that I complained or anything. That was one dog that was probably about a half a mile away.
Well, I'd say out in our areas, what you hear all day long are gunshots. They speak to his meal, cows, donkeys, tractors. Tim Borgie is doing some land excavation for the forts. You hear dump trucks and the highway noise. So
And each one of those things are gonna get the dogs a-barking.
they don't bark at those things. They bark at the mailman and they bark at squirrels.
Squirrels, raccoons, do you have any raccoons in the area?
Rubber.
Coyotes, deer, stray cats,
And they're outdoors, supervised during daylight hours, working hours, people are out working. When the sun goes down, I'm not outside, they're not outside.
Is the building they're in, is it soundproof?
If I leave the dogs in there and I go outside, you mean?
Yeah.
I've never heard like horrible barking from outside, no. So
No.
I would say that if you have 10 dogs inside and you can't hear them out, I guess it's soundproof.
I would think normal insulation in a house would
Yeah.
I
make
would
some.
think it was pretty good.
I don't want to say, oh, it's soundproof, and then,
Any other questions of the applicant? Let's move on. Thank you, ma'am.
Crystal, I have a question on number 3. The hours of operation says shall be limited to 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 40.
That's for, I should have made that clear, for dropping off and picking up.
Okay.
So obviously the dogs will be there overnight, but
Just want to make
yeah,
sure that.
sorry.
Are there any questions or comments, commissioners? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I have one comment. The size of the parcel being too small, and Jeanette and I obviously agree on this. If you go out east, I have 2 children in New Jersey and Massachusetts, and they drop their dogs off at daycare, particularly if they're on vacation or something. And in New Jersey, the city of New Jersey and Attleboro, Massachusetts, you have to be very wealthy to have 1 acre. And these places where they drop dogs off don't have 1 acre. Maybe they got 1/4 an acre. Because land values, an acre of land out there is $250,000. Up to that much. Actually, can be more than that. So the size of the property, I understand it doesn't meet the regulation, but I know in other places, they do this on a lot less land. So that's just my comment on that. I'll answer.
Any other questions or comments? No, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the proposed special use permit outlined in case DEV 19-103 be approved rather than denied, and that the findings of golden factors as set forth in the staff report don't cover everything the way that I think it could be worked around. As appointed by Planning Commission, is substantiated by facts, testimony, and evidence presented, and be adopted by this board, and that the conditions set forth in the staff report be made part of this special permit,
And all 14 requirements.
and all 14 requirements, outside of the, what was the one issue? Oh, the noise issue. I think you can get around that with all the neighbors signing off. If all the neighbors are happy,
One
Why?
isn't.
The older
One
the
isn't.
immediate neighbors
One is-
are.
One reported them, and that's why
That's
they're
why we
here.
got the complaint.
That's why we got the complaint. So,
one anonymous person, and no one came to this meeting and stood up and said,
I
we
agree.
don't want this. If they're that set that they didn't want it, they should have came here. Otherwise, I could view it as someone who is just vindictive and didn't like them or got upset about something, and you know that happens. So that's my opinion on that.
I'll second the motion.
Have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 19-103, application for a special use permit for operations of a kennel. And how do you pronounce that again?
Cupertino.
Pacino's Doggy Care. With staff recommendations 1 through 14. Is there any further discussion?
So, Commissioner Bartkowski, were you wanting to omit condition number 7, or you believe that they can work within condition number 7, which is the decibel?
I believe since the neighbors all signed off on it,
So you want that condition omitted? So the conditions minus, striking, or
No.
keeping?
All of them stay.
No.
All 1 through 14 as was written, stay.
Okay, just,
That was the motion.
if 7 causes this not to be able to be passed, I would delete 7.
Well, that's not,
That's
that's not, you can do that.
Not an option.
Not an option.
Okay.
Leave it on there.
Then as it stands.
As it stands?
Okay.
And there's a second on that,
As it stands,
as it stands, 1
Yes.
through 14 as it's written.
yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. John Matthews.
No.
And the reason?
First, the recommendations of our professional planning staff, and second, because of the noise issue. Really can't be addressed.
Terry Burkowski,
Yes.
Mark Danny? No.
and the reason?
Again, number 7, I don't see how we can pass something that we know they automatically can't meet. I just don't see how we can do it. And then, my other thought is, and I admire the applicant and the work that she's done and her neighbors, the support of her neighbors. We don't see many of this type of thing. The amount of support that she has. However, 5 years is a long time. People move. So I think we need to keep in mind future people that will be moving into the area. They may not be so supportive of it, so I don't know.
Wolf Smith,
I'm gonna say no too. I'm agreeing with what Mark said.
Jeanette Holdeman.
Yes.
I forgot Rocky. Rocky Hempel.
No, and I also agree with what everybody said about number 7.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
And I vote no, and for the same reason. I think they have a great business there, and I think they're wonderful people, but it's just an area that needs not to have it in there. So there was 3 yeses and 5 noes. So the motion did not carry. The motion was denied on a vote of 3 to 5. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on January 8th at 9 a.m. at the Leavenworth County Courthouse. That's the same place, right here, on January 8th at 9 a.m. Any person wishing to file a protest petition must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed with Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of this meeting. To be valid, the protest petitions must be signed by owners of 20% of the land area in the notification area. Be here on the 8th, they could come up with a different decision than we just did. Going on to case number DEV 10110, special application for special use for a service station and repair. Vidas Mechanical on tract of land beginning at the point 800 feet south of the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter of section 15, township 10 south, range 22 east of the 6 p.m. in Leavenworth County, Kansas. Request submitted by, and I don't have his name here, but the address is 15911 Fairmont Road. This does require a public hearing, and the owner is
Dale Stamp.
Dale Stamp, right? Okay, I'm sorry, it wasn't on here. Staff report.
Commissioner, this is case number DEV-19-110. It's a request to renew a special use permit for an auto service station and repair for Mr. Dale Stamp. Vitus Mechanical has been in operation for nearly 15 years. The applicant is requesting renewal of their special use permit, which was last granted in 2009. They're not requesting any changes to this business. Mr. Stamp works on heavy machinery and agricultural machinery and such. He's the sole proprietor of the business. His hours of operation are generally 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, and Saturdays from 8 to 12 noon. He services approximately 3 to 4 trucks per week. We've not had any complaints regarding this application in the time that it has been ongoing. Mr. Stamp is here. Staff recommends approval of this subject to conditions and subject to the golden factors. The applicant is here and will answer any questions that you may have, as will we.
Okay. Do you want to put up those conditions just so they're there so we can see them? Any questions from staff? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition, we gave a name and address each time begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. Also, a reminder that the comment portion is limited to 3 minutes per person, except for the applicant. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dale Stamp. I am the owner of Vitus Mechanical. I have been in business for 15 years at this location. My previous renewal was in 2009. This is a request for a renewal of my business. I am a sole proprietor. There are no employees with me. As Crystal stated, I was working on 3 to 4 pieces of equipment per week. That has come down some. It is probably 2 per week now on an average basis. If you have any questions or concerns, I would be very happy to answer them for you.
Anybody has any questions of the applicant?
Oh, in the next 10 years, you don't foresee adding any additional employees or other than yourself?
No.
Guess my next question is, do you agree and have read all the staff recommendations and agree that you'll abide by
I have abided by every one of their,
for the last 10 years?
for the last 10
Okay,
years.
and you'll
I
continue
have
to do so.
one request.
Okay,
I would like to put some type of sign up at the road that just says Vitus Mechanical. The reason being, I have had delivery drivers do not know where I am. I'm 1,000 feet off of the
yeah,
road.
I've seen it.
And unfortunately, I've had 2 neighbors receive parts deliveries. And I didn't mean to inconvenience them, but they don't even know that I'm there. And if you looked on Google Maps to punch in my address, what you see is a field, and it's not even my field. So, I mean, that would be the only request that I would make, is if I would be allowed to put something up to show that I am there.
Normally, I mean, we have signed regulations.
Yeah, we have sign regulations. Mr. Stamp would be allowed to have one sign. He would need a sign permit.
Okay.
It would need to be
You have get a
granted with
sign
the special
permit,
use
You're allowed
permit.
one sign. However, in his case, I mean, he really doesn't own the property along the road.
Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
he does.
Oh, you do?
He
Yes,
does,
I
yeah.
do.
Oh, okay. All right, I thought you owned the second track.
He owns both
I
of them.
own the
Both.
center and the forward piece, yes. on
Oh,
Fairmount
okay.
Road.
Oh, okay, you own both of those two.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
According to the previous regulations, I was allowed to place a 2x2 sign in the yard directing, people to the shop area, but that's obvious. sign there.
No.
But again,
Yeah,
Okay.
we just have to meet our sign regulations. Yes, you can put a sign
Yeah.
there.
well, all I need is just something large enough that can be seen by a passing vehicle.
Yeah, we don't have, did you not address signage in there?
Number 6.
Six?
Number
Oh, no signs requested with the
Yes.
SUP.
So we can change that.
We can change that to, that you would be allowed a sign as per our sign requirements, regulations. Okay? All right, any other questions of us?
When you put in for a special use permit, do you need to specify all those things like the sign being requested that was not requested initially?
So typically, yes, and I don't know when Mr. Stamp, thought about, oh, maybe it'd be nice to have a sign. I believe, again, his business has been in operation for quite some time. So, yes, sometimes when, especially with a new business, if they know they want to have a sign, they'll go ahead and submit that information. But it's not, if the board is open to Mr. Stamp being allowed to have a sign, we have sign regulations, which I don't think you'll have any trouble at all meeting. If we're talking about a 4x6 sign or something, that'll be well under, that would be well under even what he would be allowed to have. So it just can't be in the right of way. But that's all stuff that we will work out at the staff level.
Yeah, if he owns all the land there on Fairmont Road, then there would be no.
I understand that, and it makes sense to me, but you're trying to change a staff recommendation on the other one. We couldn't do that, so.
Well, we'll just make a motion that changes that.
Yeah, the motion would change number 6 to
By making
allow
a
a sign.
Yeah.
So a sign would be permitted per our sign regulations,
It's a modification.
just a modification of.
I got it.
No big deal.
Anything else of the applicant?
I'm just trying to figure out all the rules.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Read your manual.
We will now hear from the individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor?
My name is Bob Walker, 22552 163rd Street. I'm the neighbor closest physically to Dale and his business for 13 years. I have not once in those 13 years heard noise from his business. And I have 0 complaints, Dale. I think you're good neighbors, honest people, and I fully support their getting this. I don't know if it's online or not, but it's like no signage is requested with the SUV, but now it does.
We're going to change that.
Yeah.
I think we're going to change that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this request?
My name is John Saka, 15822 Hollingsworth Road. I'm within the letter distance of Mr. Stamp's business. I wish to say that everyone should read what was written, because the way this is written, he wants to build a quick trip. And I really called him about it because it announces an auto service station.
Yeah.
Mr. Stamp, for the last 15 years, has worked on probably everyone's tractor in that area of Leavenworth County, including some that were driven in, besides the semi-tractor. I had to go 50 miles to get a tractor worked on until Mr. Stamp started his business. And you can ask any farmer out there, and most of them have been to his place of business and have been more than satisfied with what he has done. It's an excellent business. It makes no noise. The traffic, you have more farmers on the road with grain haulers than you've got semis coming in. So he does an excellent job. He keeps it down to a minimum, and he does good service. My tractor's still running fine.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this request? In favor?
My name is Tom Troy, because I live directly across the street. And I'm one of the neighbors that got his parts. And so I didn't know who Vitus Mechanical was. So I just drove around until I found her and she said, yes, this is where it belongs.
Decided to build-
No issue
decided to
whatsoever.
build
I
right
too
across-
read the letter and said, oh my God, they're building the cases across the street. No issue whatsoever.
Don, can you give your address, please?
16082 Fairmount Road,
Okay, thank you.
directly across the street.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this request?
Roger Grant, 15525 Hollingworth Road, and I second everything everybody has ever said. He's worked on my trucks, my tractors, very good. He's an asset to our community. Too bad that everybody got riled up about the letter that come out, because this was just a renewal, and he's followed all the regulations to a T. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Malfino, address 22219 163rd Street. I do have used Dale's service. I met Dale when the transmission went out on a truck of mine. Didn't even know he was there. And got a good recommendation. Used him ever since and very pleased with his work.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? Now here be individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. In opposition. Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of the hearing is now closed. Are any comments or questions, commissioners? I go by his property many more times a day, and I know it's there, but you wouldn't know it if you didn't know it was there. You wouldn't know it was there. So I'm sure there's no problem in that business being there. Any other comments or questions? Nope. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the proposed special permit outlined in case DEV 19-111 be approved, that the findings on the golden factors as set forth in the staff report is approved by the Planning Commission, substantiated with facts, testimony, and evidence presented, be adopted by the board, and the conditions set forth in the staff report being made part of this zoning with the exception of item number 6.
And you want to change that to what? We need to have that for the record,
That it can be allowed to have signage.
for our sign regulations. Okay? Everybody understand that? Is there a second?
Second.
Wolf. I have a motion on the floor with the second to approve special use, case number DEV 19-110, special use permit for the auto service station for Vitus Mechanical, with staff recommendations, changing item number 6 to signage allowed. Is there any further discussion?
No.
We have a roll call vote. John Matthews.
Yes.
Terry Burkowski.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Rocky Hempel.
Yes.
Jeanette Holdeman.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on January 8th at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Any person wishing to file a protest petition must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed with Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of this meeting. To be valid, the protest petitions must be signed by an notice of 20% of the land area notification area. Good luck to you, sir. And it's going to be on January 8th, 9 a.m., same place, right here. Going on, case number DEV 19-114, special use permit for a small limited business for a bait and tackle shop on a tract located in the southwest quarter of section 26, township 10 south, range 20 east of the 6 p.m., Leavenworth County, Kansas, request submitted by Mark Barron, also known as 25054 Leavenworth Road. This does require public hearing, public comment limit 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is case number DEV 19-114. This is a this is not a renewal. This is a request for a small limited business for a bait and tackle shop. Mr. Barron indicates that he would like to turn an existing barn on his property into a small bait and tackle shop. He would sell worms, tackle, prepackaged snacks, water, sodas, things of the like. He believes that he'll be successful because of his proximity to the state lake, which is why he would like to open this business there. He does not anticipate very many customers, 35 to 40 customers per week. Of course, this would be very seasonal depending upon fishing weather. And visitors would be spread out throughout the week with an anticipated increase over the course of the weekend as opposed to during the week. Staff does not believe that this will propose any sort of nuisance or anything to the surrounding property. Staff recommends approval of this case, subject to conditions. Mr. Barron is here and will answer any questions that you may have as well.
Conditions up. Any questions of staff? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward? Need your name and address first.
My name's Mark Barron, I live 25054 Leavenworth Road.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to the?
Well, you know, it's like they're redoing 251st Street, and they're paving that, or chip and sealing that all the way to the lake. And the lake's really not usable for nice bass boats and everything like that to go around the lake. It's too tight of curves. A lot of people can't go to it. And I think with the addition of 251st, that it might be possible that, you know, something like this might work. You know, it's kind of just a hope, and it's something for me to do in my retirement. And, you know, I just think that it'd be, you know, good for myself and, you know, the people I've talked to already. Everybody seems to be on board with the thing. I don't know if it'll fly or not, but I want to give it a try.
There's 9 conditions that we require. They're up on the board. Do you have any questions about any of those requirements?
No, not really. The one thing is that this is like my first shot at doing anything, you know, on my own for myself. I've worked for somebody else my whole life, and I'm going into this blind. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to learn on the fly. I've read everything I could possibly read, and half of it I understand, half of it I don't. You know, if something happened, the one thing I'm wondering about it, is there any sites that I can go to that I can read more of what any type of regulations? I've read everything that I can possibly read. Is there anything else that I can find to have a guideline? Like I say, I've never had a business, you know, so I've read all the guidelines that I can read from the state, and I've read all the ones from the county, and yeah, I'm just nervous just even standing here.
David, can you help us with any of that?
Sure. Mr. Barron, when you're finished here, you and I can meet out in the hall. We've got some resources we can point you toward.
All right. You know, it's just, I've gone through, you know, most everything I can, and there's a lot of hoops to jump through. I mean, the state has a lot of demands, and, you know, just, it wasn't what I was thinking when I started. I thought that this would be just a, you know, good old boy, open up a shop, everybody stop on by and we'll be good.
Well, if you'll take the risk, we'll try to help you.
And you know, it's like I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm going to start very, very small. It's going to be a very small, and then I kind of wonder about if it does expand, you know, which would be awesome. But if it does, is that something that is, you know, like on a special use permit that I have to let everybody know that I'm getting bigger, or, you know, I mean, you know, I'd love it to happen, you know, but I'm a dreamer. So, you know, right now, if anybody shows up, I'd be surprised.
You want to ask you about number 6 on here. It says no signage allowed in right of way, no signage requested. Are you gonna have a sign? I would think that would.
I would like
be
to have
you-
something, that was something that when that came up, and when it went across, because I filled out all the applications myself, and Chris will help out a lot, dude, thanks a lot for the help.
No problem.
You know, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I didn't know if you were like talking about having a sign that I wanted to put up a 20-footer with a flashing light on it, or if I
You
just
wouldn't allow that
Or, you know, or I just wanted, or I just wanted like a real estate sign, you know, in the front yard. I didn't know where that went, and I tried reading everything that I could find on it, and that just never came up. So when I filled out the application, I just said no.
I would think you'd want one, I mean.
You know, yeah, because I'm on an area that's not the easiest to find in the first place.
Yeah,
And I own the entire frontage on both sides of it.
yeah.
So, yeah, like I say, I'm in desperate need of help all the way around. Anything you guys can do.
Why
you know,
don't we kind
I'll
of
be
change
over it.
that one to where you are gonna have a sign, but you do have to meet our sign regulations?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think you're probably gonna want one.
Yeah, I mean, right now, you know, it's like, it didn't get real until the sign got put in my yard. You know, when the yellow sign got put in my yard, then all of a sudden it got real. And it was like, you know, I just thought that, yeah, you know, you're just thinking about things. And like I say, I had scrambled the jets from the time that, you know, that it actually showed up, and I said, okay, here we go. So I've been reading and trying to learn as much as I can. And it's just something I think that, just for the community and the people that are out there, they don't have anywhere to go. Everyone closed. When the lakes got overfilled and they couldn't fish the lakes, everyone closed. And there's no one, and I know all the people that fish all the ponds and the lakes and all the things, so, you know, I think it might work.
Okay.
I don't know.
Good luck. Any questions of the applicant?
Are you
Thank you,
going,
sir.
I'm not,
Oh,
I got a
go ahead,
couple.
I'm sorry.
I visited the site today. Are you going to use any of the 2 existing buildings that you have along there?
The one existing building that was on, that I submitted when I did it, yeah, I have the tin barn at the back. It's actually.
Well, there's actually 2 down that one side. You're going to face the other way on
One's
left?
my garage, and it's
Okay.
the old metal building, looks like an old hay barn.
Yeah,
That's what I'm shooting with.
okay. I went down and seen it today, and that's what I
Oh,
was
okay.
asking.
Yeah.
I was surprised Leavenworth Road run out of gravel.
Well, yeah, you know, it's like, you know, it always gets me, you know, you talk about traffic on that, and it's like, we just get the road nice and somebody's gotta go out and tear it up. But it's nice that that's gonna be done. I just think that, you know, that's a nice lake back there. And more people are moving into Tonganoxie, and they're gonna visit these smaller places, these smaller lakes. And there's nothing out there. You can't get a bottle of water, you can't get anything. And I kinda wanna be that guy.
You'd be surprised at the number of people that stop in Tonganoxie and look for bait and that because they're going to the state lake.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something, I like fishermen, I like liars, you know, I like people stopping by, and most of them are, sorry. But, you know, that's just the kind of thing that I like anyway. It's the people I like, and I'd like to do something I enjoy before I die.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. In favor. Now,
I did come for it, but I look for bait.
That's a good enough reason.
So, I am Stephanie Ventura, and my address is 24655 Conley Avenue, and I live like 5 miles from the state lake. And I have 3 kids, and we like to go to the state lake and go fishing, and I had to post on one of the Facebook groups where I can buy bait, worms, you know, etc. And they're like, I think you need to go to Bonner Walmart or Lawrence Walmart. And I'm like, are you serious? There's nowhere to buy bait? And it's like, there's a lake there, you know, you need bait by the lake. You just need it.
anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
I didn't come for this one either, but Kevin Otter, 14683 158th Street. kayak fisherman. He didn't say he was gonna carry minnows, but I'm hoping that he will. I fish mainly out of kayak for crappie, and I cannot think of a place anywhere in at least the southern half of Leavenworth County where I can find minnows. Finding a bait shop here is hard down there, but I cannot think of any place down there, or even down in DeSoto that carries that.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this request? In favor? Now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. In opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners?
We need bait.
Any debate? Well, let's make a motion then. I'll
I'd
entertain
like to make a motion.
Okay,
Chair, if you'll entertain one, I move that the proposed SUP as outlined in case DEV 19-114 be approved and that the findings of the golden factors and set forth in staff report as adopted by the Planning Commission and substantiated by the facts, testimony, and evidence presented be adopted by the board, and that the conditions set forth in staff report be amended as following. And what I would like to see amended is item number 6, that will allow signage that complies with Article 25 of the Leavenworth County Zoning and Subdivision Regulations.
okay. Second. So they're allowed to sign?
Yes.
Instead of no signage, they're allowed to sign
Allow signage as,
requested, but,
that way it's part of the special use permit.
okay.
So I'll second that.
And John Matthews, second. I have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 19-114, special use for small limited business for a bait and tackle shop, with staff recommendation changing number 6 to
Number
allow a
6.
sign with the special use permit. Is there any further discussion?
Per Article 25 of our zoning and regulations. Okay.
No other discussion. I have a roll call vote. John Matthews?
Yes.
Terry Bukowski?
Yes.
Mark Danny?
Yes.
Wolf Schmidt?
Yes.
Rocky Himpel?
Yes.
Jeanette Holdeman?
Yes?
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners considers item January 8th at 9 a.m. at the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Any person filing a protest petition must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed with Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of this meeting. To be valid, the protest petitions must be signed by owners of 20% of the land area in the notification area. Good luck to you, sir. And January 8th, 9 a.m., same place.
I'll be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Case number DEV 19-121, application for a special use permit for a bread and breakfast Sacred Hearts Healing Center. Tract of land located in the southeast quarter of Section 14, Township 11 South, Range 20 east of the 6 p.m. Land located in the southeast quarter of Section 13, Township 11, Range 20 east of the 6 p.m. Located in Leavenworth County, Kansas. Request submitted by Jana and Cecil Rickwell. I hope I did that right. Also known as 17468 246th Street. Does require a public hearing, and public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Commissioner, this is case number DEV-19-121. This is a special use permit request for a bed and breakfast. The property is located in a pretty rural part of Leavenworth County. The applicants have a small accessory structure on their property near their home that they have converted to a bed and breakfast. It's one room, it has a small bathroom, a small kitchen and such. The space is used oftentimes for friends and family who are visiting, but they do also advertise it on Airbnb and open it up as, like I said, a bed and breakfast. They have a number of trails on their property. They also have 3 very friendly dogs that can visit you if you would like. Staff recommends approval of this, subject to conditions and subject to the golden factors. The fact rolls are here and will answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Any questions of staff? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give a name and address each time begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. And you are, except for the applicant, you are limited to 3 minutes per person. The public comment portion is now open. Will the applicant please come forward? Can you raise the microphone? I can barely hear you.
The building that we're using is actually the structure they used when they built the home on the property, and we just remodeled it and used it for our family when they come here. It's about a 700-foot square place, and we're just using it mainly for family when they come to visit or friends, but we do Airbnb it. And actually, when the letter went out, a neighbor called me and said, "Are you setting up a bed and breakfast thinking you're getting our home at the main house?" Like, I was like, no, it's just the cabin. So. But we don't request any signage. Everything's self-containing in the property. No special parking or anything.
All of our trails have signs as well, so nobody gets lost.
Anything else to add? You've seen the requirements 1 through 9? Do you have any questions on those? Okay. You're now requesting a sign, and that's...
No, sir. We're just trying to get a little bit of
Yeah, that was, all right, anything else? Any questions? The applicant? Thank you, unless you have anything to add. Okay, thank you very much. Crystal, let's ask you one question. Apparently there's 2 houses on this property?
Yes.
Okay, that's really not allowed in our regulations, is it?
It's allowed as an accessory dwelling unit.
Accessory dwelling for what?
Well, the secondary home, the cabin would be considered an accessory dwelling unit. We do permit those. Again, this is being brought through as a special use permit because it's for a bed and breakfast, because it's not being used to house an elderly parent or a child or
Right.
something. So,
Regulations read only 1 house per parcel, right? Being a special use permit, that would be allowed then? Because of special
as a
use
bed and
permit,
breakfast,
or?
we do allow accessory dwelling units also. If you have 5 acres or more, which they do, you can have an accessory dwelling unit. It has to be permitted. So it is an allowed.
It is
an
allowed use with a special use permit though, correct?
For the bed and breakfast, you need
Yeah.
a special use permit. If you were just having an accessory dwelling unit because, say you had an aging parent, you would not need a special use permit. You would just get a
You would have
permit.
to apply for a permit though, right?
Yes, for a permit, yes.
Okay, and that, they didn't apply for that permit, correct?
They have a permit for the structure.
They do have a permit?
Yes.
for the structure. Okay, I guess that was my question.
Sorry,
Maybe I didn't
yes.
word it correctly. Okay. We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor. Yes.
Krista, wouldn't this fall into the aspect of, because they're not renting it 12 months out of the year, it doesn't fall into that regulation and not being able to be there? Because on a bed and breakfast, it'd be kind of hit and miss when it's rented. I doubt it would be rented every month out, rented for a whole year every single
Right,
day.
so we have brought this forward as a special use permit for a bed and breakfast because the dwelling unit is being used as a bed and breakfast. It's also being used for friends and family, but it's being used as a bed and breakfast, which is why it needs a special use permit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request?
My name is Stephanie Ventura. I live at 24655 Conley Avenue in Tonganoxie. So I met Jana on the Nextdoor app, which is, we were gonna meet up and try and grow that and get all of our neighbors to join and, so that it could be like you know, more neighborhood league going on and stuff. And so the cabin was already there when they purchased the house. They didn't build it or anything. It was already there. They just remodeled it. And it's really nice. And they don't bother, you know, the neighbors or anything. It wouldn't affect anyone with noise or anything like that. So they just put it on Airbnb sometimes, I guess.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this request? In favor? We now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like a motion that the proposed special use permit outlined in case DEV 19-121 be approved and that the findings of the golden factors and set forth in staff report and substantiated by the facts, testimony, and evidence presented be adopted by the board, and that the conditions set forth in the staff report be made part of the special use permit.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor with the second to approve case number DEV 19-121, special use for bed and breakfast, Sacred Hearts Healing Center, with staff recommendations, and that was 1 through 9, I believe, right? 1 through 9?
Yep.
Is there any further discussion? None, have a roll call vote. John Matthews.
Yes.
Terry Bukowski.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Rocky Hempel.
Yes.
Jeanette Holloman.
Yes.
Jeff Speak.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on January 8th at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Any person wishing to file a protest petition must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed with Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of this
Yeah.
meeting. To be valid, the protest petitions must be signed by owners of 20% of the land area notification area. Good luck to you, and again, it's January the 8th at 9 a.m., same place. Thank you. Good luck. Case number DEV 19-125, consideration application for a text amendment. Definitions. Request submitted by staff report. Does require a public hearing, public comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, this is case number DEV-19-125. This is a request by staff to amend the Article 3 of the Planning and the Zoning and Subdivision Regulations for Leavenworth County. We are looking to amend the definition of a group home. We would like to bring our definition into compliance with the state regulation, which is what we have presented to you here. We have also amended this in the table of uses to reflect this change in the definition. Staff, of course, recommends approval of this request, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
So this wording, Crystal, is taken from state?
It was taken from the statute and also from another community that has a regulation that meets the definition.
And what you have on the board where it starts group home, is that where it starts?
Correct. So what we are proposing is to break this into two separate, so a type 1 and a type 2. A type 1 group home would not require a special use permit. It's for physically or mentally disabled people. It could also be for, I'm going to backtrack out of that. But these are people who do not have any sort of criminal record or not on probation. It's not a halfway house. It's not, anything like that. That would be more type 2, which would require a special use permit, and that is in accordance with the state regulation.
Any questions, commissioners?
Is there a reason why I think this is good, don't get me wrong, but the conditions A, B, and C, seems like there's a lot of gray area in there that's maybe like non-measurable type of things.
Are you on type 1?
Yeah.
So I believe our stance on this would be that if you look down to type 2, and if they don't meet the restrictions in type 2, then it would be a type 1.
Would this be necessary to approve or change the wording of, for the future application? I believe it was called Joy Luck Home that we approved a month or so ago?
No, those were single-family residential homes. Those were not group homes.
Any other questions? I know everybody's kind of studying it.
I guess my preference is, and I've read it, and I pretty well understand it, and I should have mentioned it before we started this. I'd like to do, when we go back and look at the next item on the agenda, I'd like to talk about this and that at the same time. But I don't know if that's possible or not.
This really wouldn't have anything to do with the next item.
So it is listed in the table of uses. However, we need to update the definition in Article 3 so that it is in compliance with state regulations.
I mean, what's your concern?
Well, my concern is that when we get into the discussion about the tables of uses, I think it's too early to talk about it here, but when we get into the next set of tables, I've got some conversations I'd like to carry on, and legal counsel as a point.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, if I might speak on this, I've been working with staff on this. This has been worked on for quite some time. I believe the reason this is brought up as a separate item is the current definition that Leavenworth County uses for adult care facility or group home does not comply with state or federal statutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like the house that's on fire, you want to put it out. And we don't have anything pending, but I would really support staff recommendation that you favorably consider this. I will tell you, from many, many years ago, we had an instance, the state of Kansas tried to move somebody, a violent sexual predator in Leavenworth County, and we were successful in blocking them, but this regulation language would have been much more, would have been of great assistance at the time, so I would endorse the staff recommendation.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, anybody? Okay. Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give a name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. We will now hear from the individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? Now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. In opposition. Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners? Or I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I'll go ahead and make a motion after the explanation by legal counsel that I move that the proposed amendment to the 2006, let's see, if this is the one, 19-125, be approved, that the findings on the golden factors and set forth in staff report and substantiated by the facts, testimony, and evidence presented be adopted by the board, and that the conditions set forth in staff report be made part of the proposed amendment to Leavenworth County subdivision regulation.
Wolf seconded. I have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 19125, consideration application of a text amendment to amend Article 3 definitions. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote. John Matthews.
Yes.
Kerry Belkowski.
Yes.
Mark Gainey.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Rocky Himpel.
Yes.
Jeanette Holloman.
Yes.
Jeff Speak.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on January 8, 2000, at 9 a.m. at the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Any person wishing to file a protest petitions must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed with Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of the meeting. I guess we really can't do it. It's a county thing, so there is no protest
Yeah, you
petition on that, right?
cross that out
Yeah.
on the next one.
Yeah, I think we'll just forget about that, and I'll stop that it did carry 8-0, so. All right, case number DEV 19-099, consideration application for a text amendment to amend Article 19, Table of Uses, request submitted by Planning and Zoning staff. Does require a public hearing. Public comment portion is limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, this is case number DEV-19-099. This case is being continued from last month. As you all recall, we had a work session. At that work session, you were all given a table of uses that had been annotated, and you had also been given a table of uses where the comments had been removed. I would like to go through briefly and explain partially why we are doing this. As we just discovered with the last case, we have some items that need to be cleaned up. You may also recall that, last month in our work session, as we went through, so one of the things that we've removed from the table of uses is adult care facilities. This is because we also had it listed as a group care facility, and then we also had it listed as an adult day facility. So 3 different places we had essentially the same exact thing that was listed. So we changed the definition and we condensed it. This is the same with an aviation field, airport landing. We had that listed twice, so we condensed it. Assembly halls and community centers, that got condensed to be with amusement center and conference center. So I just want to give you all some background on how we did go through each of these items thoroughly. There have been some deletions and there have been some changes, obviously, things that we have talked about extensively at the staff level and then also with you all at the work session. Many, many, many of those changes were simply condensing things that were listed multiple times or removing some items that really should not have been listed in there at all. This also is introducing new zoning districts. As you know, we have proposed new zoning districts, which were heard a couple of months ago. We needed to get those added to the table of uses. We are working on many changes, Leavenworth County Planning and Zoning at the direction of the board, and as such, we're doing those things one change at a time. It's kind of like a big book, and we're writing it a chapter at a time, as opposed to coming to you with every single change and saying, here you go, take it and give us feedback. That's why we've done it again, one thing at a time. I don't believe I have any other items on there that I wanted to bring to your attention. We obviously recommend approval of this. As Mr. Van Peer stated, we could open up the public comment. This is up to you on whether or not we proceed. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions of staff?
I saw one on the animal hospital, animal care facility, where you added that enclosed soundproof kennels only. That was an addition.
Yes, that was an
Yes.
addition.
Was that to accommodate something like the doggy daycare if you could get around? You'd still have the decibel problems.
Right. So that was to essentially combine two different uses, again, into a single use. But that also is common practice with many municipalities across the state of Kansas, is that you have an enclosed.
Well, like, would that handle a doggy daycare as long as they were within the,
Well, if they were inside, yeah, if it were something like maybe Wolf's or something that was an inside doggy daycare.
right, but they'd still need to meet the acreage requirements and everything else for kennels.
If it were outside, yes. If the dogs were going to be outside in a play area.
Okay, but if they were always inside, then there's not that acreage limitation?
The limitation on the acreage is primarily because the dogs are outside in that parcel. Particular parcel was very small and the dogs are right on the property line, which can cause a nuisance to the neighbors.
Right, I understand. And that's where you get into that 60 decibel
Right.
issue.
Still allowed with a special use permit, is like they were doing, but they
Right.
still have to meet all the requirements of the special use permit.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
that's where the difficulty comes in.
Right, understand. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions of staff before we continue? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition, give your name and address, your time to begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. In favor of this request? We will now hear from individuals wishing to speak in opposition to this request, and remember, you're limited to 3 minutes per person. Remember to please state your name and address.
Julie Downs, 13462 222nd Street. I would propose that you do wait until February to postpone this. This is very serious. This is millions of dollars of property that people own along this land. You've had a month or two, you've been working on it a month. You know how long we've been able to see this? Since Friday? And it's our property. Commissioner, Attorney Van Paris has told us before, he said that this is going to affect you for years to come, and you're willing to do millions of dollars and approve this. Do we know what all these uses, a table of uses, do we know the devaluation of property around those when we do some of these? Have we done an analysis? Line by line, each one of those uses. Do you know what will devalue our property? We have millions of dollars of property from Tonganoxie to 32. I also propose that the table of uses should be mailed to everyone along
Yes.
222nd Street. If you think people know about this, they don't. It's very difficult to get to these meetings. So I would like that to be mailed to everyone. I would like next steps clearly delineated, that you vote, the commissioners vote. I'd like to see, make sure people understand that it's taking away our rights to protest anything that goes next to us, right? You all understand that that is taking away our rights now. That's why they're doing it. I'd like to know the precedent. We asked Jeff Joseph. He didn't know of a precedent. We asked Commissioner Stevens, what's the precedent to take away our rights to approve this? We don't have rights to sell our land the way we want. We don't have rights to protest when something goes next to us. What study has been done to see if 3 months of letting developers bypass 3 months of approval process is really worth denying our rights to come protest something next to our land? And you know, we talked about the rush. It's been 12 years on this road, and some of us have worked very, very hard on this as well. We're well educated, we're farmers. We've seen 12 years of waiting and now we've got to rush this through. We don't even have anybody lined up yet. I mean, and I do want to say, Commissioner Stevens said he's going to have a town hall. I'm just going to say December 19th before a holiday does not constitute a town hall before people get this table of uses and before they are explaining they're losing their rights. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Yeah, my name's Tony Schmidt. I live at 17322 Golden Road. You guys had a work session on this. Is that open to the public?
Yes.
It is?
It was on the agenda.
Who do you send it out to?
It was on our agenda
And it was last month?
last month. Yes.
Did anybody know about it in here?
No.
Oh, okay. I have a question as far as the sand pit issue. You're changing all of the special use permits. They no longer would be needed for mining or.
Can that be brought up? Can that be brought up? There's a graph that shows that there is no,
The extraction
there is
of
no
sand.
special use permit that is needed.
Right now, we're still dealing with the sand pit issue about a special use permit. Our new table of uses takes that away and says it is allowable in I-3 area now. Should that still, can a motion be brought up where that stays as a special use or a conditional use permit and not an allowable use? Can we get that in?
We can change it any way we want to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can make the changes, then, of course, the commissioners are the final word.
Right.
You know, we're just a recommending body. We can change that if we feel that that's something we need to change. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just add to that since that was on the topic.
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. Kevin Otterman, 14683 158th Street.
Thank you.
Thanks for the reminder. In trying to understand the change, because I just saw this within the last 24 hours, I was trying to research and understand special use versus allowed use and implications. And I came across this excerpt that says, the special use permit application process often requires that an application be reviewed at a public hearing by a planning commission appointed by a governing body, with the planning commission issuing a recommendation of approval or denial to the governing body. All public hearings require notice to adjacent landowners and potentially affected landowners or tenants are given opportunity at the public hearing to provide comments on the application to the planning commission and the governing body. Further, the governing body has authority to place specific limits or conditions on the special use permit, which could further restrict the intended operation. So with respect to these changes for special use versus allowed use, and to the last gentleman's comments, one of the items listed is titled Extraction of Raw Materials such as rock, gravel, sand, and clay, going from special use to allowed, or special permit to allowed use. My questions are, can staff explain, or can the commissioners explain or confirm, are we then removing the planning commission review of those items and also correspondingly the public comment requirements for such activities in an I-3 zone parcel? If that's what we're going to do, then why is such a change being recommended at this time during a review process for something that matches the description that has been an issue of significant public concern?
We'll address it at the end. We just want you to hear your comments. That's what you're here for.
If I've got a few seconds left, the only other thing I would add is that particular topic, that particular site issue that's ongoing. You know, we do look to you guys in particular. The challenge there isn't so much the zoning per se, but clearly one of the key issues there is the infrastructure to support that zone. And I believe a change like this will actually remove your oversight and discussion as well as public comment to address those kinds of concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? we want to hear from all of you, so don't be bashful about coming up and forming a line if you need to. So we want to hear from everyone. That's why it's open to the public.
Good evening, I'm Nancy Carpenter, 14681 Crider Road in Bonner Springs. Normally, I would have it all written out really nice, but since, as we just learned, we only learned about these things on Friday. Actually, I didn't learn until Monday. So if I'm a little jankety in what I say, I apologize. So the first thing I would like you to realize is on this particular proposal, the review that was provided to us only speaks to those 6 new columns. If there were 70-plus changes to the current use side of that table of uses. I hear today there was a work session. Well, I learned Monday that there was a work session. I hear today that you guys got an annotated version of the chart. We made our own because that was not made available to us. I did request for minutes from that work session and was told there were none. So it was not available to us to be able to look at. Second thing, I'm concerned about the notification about this. On page 122 of your planning and zoning regulations, it talks about how there's a public notice in the newspaper. Yes, there was something in the newspaper. It also talks about how notices are to be sent by mail to all those impacted folk. On that left-hand side of the table of uses, every single citizen in Leavenworth County could be affected. Every single citizen. I never got a letter. I should have gotten a letter by your procedures. I should have been notified. I was not. So I think even glancing at this seems to be entirely inappropriate. Third, many of the current use changes that are being looked at are changing special use permits to allowed. This speaks closest to my heart because of the sand pit. So right now we're in the midst of this wonderful sand pit fight. If that becomes allowed, there are no holding factors. There are no traffic studies. There are no impact fees. There's nothing to prevent a sand company from coming in and basically raping the land and abusing our county. So have a lot of problem with that. I guess I was consoled a little bit in knowing that in I3 zoning, there still is a special use permit and 10 pages in your resolutions about adult entertainment.
Yeah.
10 pages. Adult entertainment is licensed, and we also have to worry about dogs barking.
Yeah,
We don't
do.
worry that there's a sand pit. We don't care about that, but we care that dogs bark. The last thing that I would ask, we've had 2 days to look at this. 2 days. This is not acceptable. You're trying to take the citizens out of the equation. That is not what government is about. You open this up and put allowed on all of these issues, and everybody from everywhere in the country is going to flock into Leavenworth County because there are no rules. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Stacy Schmidt, 17322 Golden Road. I do not have a speech. I want to know why this cannot be tabled until we know what our comprehensive plan that we spent $300,000 on plus has to say about this. Would it not be a good idea to table it till we see what the comprehensive plan, what everybody's worked so hard for months? The public is supposed to be taking part of this and saying this is what we want our county to be, to look like, to be like. This is not what I'm voting for.
Thank you, ma'am.
Paula Discenia, 13162 158th Street. In reference to the excavation of sand, clay, rock, planning and zoning needs to do careful research and incredible due diligence when it comes to a company wanting to come into the county and start excavating materials and truck that stuff all through the rural residential areas. Part of the process of planning is going to be taking out of that when you allow this use instead of having a special use permit. The residents will be taken out of the dialogue. This is just a sampling of the people that were able to clear their calendars to make it here tonight. A sampling. You know what you saw in June. Or was it June or July when they came here to talk about the sand pit? In cases like this, citizen input and actually listening to the citizen input is so important. P&Z went from recommending approval to not recommending approval on the sand pit issue. If all these citizens hadn't had the opportunity to come and speak, would you have recommended it? Because you didn't hear all the input they brought forward. They brought forward information you guys did not have about Quag Valley sand. The question I would really love to have someone answer is, what was the justification for changing excavating raw materials from special use permit to approved? What happened in that work session? What was the reason? Because I am ignorant of that. And since we were talking about decibels, I'm going to throw in that my husband and I live at the corner of 158 and Loring Road. That's where all those sand trucks are going to turn, so we get it double whammy. Coming this way, both directions. So somebody come out and there's a train of sand trucks are bringing all that sand around, take a decibel reading and how loud those trucks are going to be. And if you need some kind of thing in writing that's going to say how much our value of our land is going to fall when that happens, it's common sense. Thank you. Good job.
And I follow my wife, Alan Jaskinia, 13162 158th Street. I'm going to try to hit on points that other people didn't, like how much traffic actually travels that road that the sand trucks will use. There is quite a bit of traffic. There's a lot of tourist traffic, whether they go across the bridge, the Wyandotte Street Bridge. The only other ones you have are K7 and Eudora to get across. The other factor is, not in my backyard. You know what? We've got a lot of trucks the way it is. The road's already falling apart. We are 2 properties south of 158th and Loring. The road's already falling apart. We know what's going to happen. It's virtually impossible to keep all of the debris inside the truck. Drive through Edwardsville, just west of the stoplight. They're moving dirt. That's dirt.
Table of uses.
Yes,
Wait a minute, let me speak. Let me speak.
Yes, sir.
If you don't like the way the table of uses are, comment on that, but not about the traffic and if the sand plant's gonna do, or whatever the sand plant is gonna bring to us. That's not our issue today. That's for a different time and place. This is, if you don't like the way the table of uses are, if you have a comment on that one particular use, that's fine. We want you to hear your opinion on that. But this is not the time to argue about trucks on the roads or anything else like that. That's not an issue today at this point. That was when we had this special use permit, and when if it continues on, that's when that will be. But today, comment on the table of uses. We want to hear those comments. If you don't like the way that category is listed now, tell us. That's what we want to hear today. We don't want to know about trucks traveling on the road or the noise or the dust or anything else. Today, we're just dealing with this. We need to stay on that topic today. So we want to hear your opinion on that. But we're not debating the sand plant. That's done for us, as far as I know, unless it's sent back to us by the commissioners. We're through here. We're not considering that anymore, one way or the other. We are considering the table of uses, and if you don't like the way the table of uses are written here, that's what we want to hear from you. We do want to hear that from you, and please talk about that issue.
And maybe I didn't make myself clear earlier. I was trying to hit on points that other people that have spoken before me. I had already hit on, the table of use makes it so that someone can just come in and do it.
That's what we want to hear from you, right?
That.
Yeah, we don't want to hear about the
So
trucks.
if my lead-in was too long, sir, I do apologize
Yeah.
for that.
That's what we want to hear. We don't need to hear about trucks on the roads and how it will affect you, because this is more than just that one category. Are the other categories satisfied, or have you looked at the other categories and you have any comments on them?
We haven't had
That's,
much time.
that's what we want to hear. We want to hear all that about the table of uses, and that's what we want to hear today.
I want to
Please stay
apologize
on
for
that
not
subject.
knowing about that until Tuesday.
Okay.
Yes, I have not had time to go through it, but prior to the next meeting, I certainly will. I'm notified.
Please do, please do. Thank you.
Absolutely. Good day.
Now we'll hear from more people in opposition.
Yay.
Just on the property affected would be at 5759 Warren Road. One of those is County Road 2, Warren Road. I just want to say that I think having a special use permit for that, for 11 Warren County Road, would be a good thing. Having more opportunity to serve who's coming into the county, what their plans are, and who's in opposition. And as far as I'm not allowed to speak anything about this. I retired after 34 years as sand plant. I can tell you about roads, washboard roads, and illegal trucks. And all of them get paid by the ton. So they want to haul as much as they can. They don't care about DOT, and they don't care about speed limits. And your kids in the road, all they do is see well.
Thank you.
Mark Tenberg, 16904 Kreider Road. I found out about this last night. So late, through 92 pages of paper. I get to read some of it. Didn't have time to go through all of it. First, I want to commend all of you for your time that you spend. You don't get paid, and you're sitting through all this. I didn't get time to write anything down. But a special use permit is a lever for the county. An applicant, no matter what the business is, you can place stipulations on them, guidelines that they have to follow. If they don't follow them, you can pull the permit. You can review it. You can try to make them follow the rules. You take away the special use permits, you take away your lever. Now how are you going to control a company and make them follow the rules? All of the citizens and taxpayers in the county fund the operation of this county. It could not operate without the taxpayers and citizens. They need to be heard. You need to listen to them, but they need to be informed. I found out last night. And I'm afraid you might take a vote on it yet tonight. And it's a very, very important thing we're talking about here. It'll affect us for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And I don't think it should be rushed. We better think about this. And I know you're tired of hearing it, but the extraction of rock, gravel, sand, and clay is now allowable on this new chart. Those are some of the worst violators those companies are out there. You take away the lever, you're going to walk all over Leavenworth County.
My name is Sarah Williams, and I live at 12725 166th Street. And I have a question. If this new table of uses is adopted, what stops somebody like Caw Valley Companies from withdrawing their application and then coming on into that spot with a red carpet and a welcome sign?
Except for other regulations, nothing, you're right. But there are other regulations.
Like what?
There's
Like the
traffic
boxes they've
instep-
checked with their permitting?
Traffic, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you, I know they have to do a traffic impact.
Correct.
Study.
Yes.
And they do have to do a site plan. They have to stick to that, both of those two things, otherwise they would be pulled. Is that correct?
There's state and federal regulations. They would still be required to have a traffic impact study done, just like they're having done now. They would still be required to adhere to they would still be required to submit a site plan that meets all of our regulations. If you remember earlier, before, when we opened this up, and I let you know that we were doing this one step at a time, those are regulations that we're also in the process of writing. That all of these things that would still have to be done, there would still be a traffic impact fee that would be based upon the traffic impact study that gets reviewed by a third-party engineer. So we're still working through all that. As the question about, could they just withdraw their application? They could, but they still have to go through a special use permit because we don't have those regulations that I'm talking about already in place.
Okay, if this is my 3 minutes, I want to stop there and keep going. Okay, thank you. When I spoke with Crystal in the waiting room of planning and zoning not too long ago, and with respect to the Caw Valley issue, it was kind of felt that not much would happen anymore this time of year because of holidays and
We're
vacation.
back on that. Again, that's not being
Okay,
addressed
then I
here.
would like to say that planning and zoning is not fully staffed, correct? It wasn't that long ago that I saw a job posting, and now we're missing Mr. Joseph. Ms. Voth is the interim director. This is big stuff. We don't have a city planner. Do we have any business going forward with these changes that will ruin this beautiful open space in Leavenworth County? Why do we not want to curate what we have? Why don't we value what we have in this beautiful area that I call home?
Sherry Grogan, president of rural Leavenworth County, Leavenworth Inc., and I live on 16635 Leavenworth Road. And I appreciate the attempt to streamline the processes, but the focus really needs to be on the type of items that you hear yes, 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 yes across the board, like the bed and breakfast. So there are some good things in the table of uses that I like, but there are also quite a few that concern me. And those are ones that impact people's health, safety, the environment, and the rural character of the county. And I do have a list of the items that I'd like to give you for review. I'm not going to go through them and read them, but they are some of the ones that have already been mentioned, like the extraction of materials from the ground, for example. But one of the things is that I'd like to suggest is a stipulation for public notice and hearings for the light and heavy industrial category. Those are the ones where we seem to have a lot of differing opinions, and there's also a high risk to the county and to the citizens. And as a citizen, we would like to have input into the process. I think the timing of these changes is not too good. We have not seen, the public has not seen the land use map associated with the comprehensive plan. And so they don't really understand how it might impact them or the county in general because they haven't seen how the land is used.
Thank you, ma'am. Haven't you been up already?
Yeah, but I didn't use my 3 minutes. I just want to make one more statement.
I love it.
My name's Tony Schmidt, 17322 Golden Road. Crystal said that the allowable use still has all them stipulations, but the only thing it takes the public hearing out, this process. It takes our voice out of all this. And I think that's a very important part to keep in these type of things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Howard Brinton, 20260 Parallel Road, Tonganoxie, rural Leavenworth, Inc. board member. As we noted earlier, and as I look at the table of uses, it's very comprehensive, but not very clear, at least to me. It's unclear if the definition for some of these types of businesses exist or what type of stipulations there are regarding them. Specific examples include distillation of alcohol from grain, including beverage alcohol, industrial alcohol. What's considered an amusement park? Maybe it's out there and I just don't know. I find some of the areas listed under the broad categories of chemical, petroleum, coal, and allied products, clay, stone, and glass products, and manufacturing of food and beverage particularly troubling. And that the table appears in some cases to treat the types of businesses that would occupy space in limited industry, light industry, and heavy industry as equal, when we all know they're really not. And I only got to look at this last night, or Monday, I guess, but I find it odd that if I want to open a crematory, a skeet range, or a dog kennel, I would need a special use permit. But if I wanted to package and process meat and poultry, that would be allowed in I-1, I-2, and I-3. It seems odd to me. Perhaps the table isn't as precise as it should be, so I would respectfully request that before you approve this table going forward, we deliberately and consciously consider the unintended consequences and second and third order effects. Thanks for your service, and I genuinely mean that, and for your consideration.
Thank you.
My name is Ann Brokoff. I'm at 21060 Loring Road, and I'm a board member of Rural Leavenworth, Inc. I'm concerned about the overall impact of this table of uses. It will be countywide, and it will be complex, and it will be big, as has been noted by Mr. Van Paris and a number of people speaking tonight. My biggest problem with the table of uses is the change of many items from a special use permit to allowed use, and also continuation of some items, particularly in light and heavy industry, as continued allowed uses. And although staff, I think, does a pretty good job, an excellent job in my case, of being responsive and patient with questions, many of these decisions about what is actually going to go into our county will then be made by staff. It cuts the public out of the process by no longer calling for notification or public hearings, but it also cuts out the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. I think that these bodies have an obligation to represent the best interests of Leavenworth County and its residents, and by removing them from the public hearing process and from the process of making recommendations and having to vote on whether these things are truly appropriate, whether a wastewater treatment facility or an animal slaughtering plant, both of which would be allowed in their particular categories, they would no longer have a say in that, as well as the public. I think this lack of transparency is disturbing when a staff members wind up making these very big decisions on behalf of the county. This lack of transparency is very troubling, and I think I would really strongly recommend that you continue this discussion and try to work out some of these issues and ensure that notifications and hearings can stay in place where appropriate. Thank you for your time and for the work you've done on this issue.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
My name is Debbie Skeet. I'm at 15731 222nd Street, Montmorency. I'm very concerned and upset that I don't get to know who is going to build what next to me. And I'm not going to be notified. We have cattle, we have big ponds. Lots of children could get in the ponds and drown, and I'm going to be responsible for them. I'm not even going to know when they're going to move in or which area around us. We've worked very hard for what we have, and we've done without. And this is just not the way you should treat people. We've always been notified when anything is coming in our area prior to this thing coming in, and I think it's wrong. And you guys, if you were living out there, you wouldn't like it either. And you need to listen to the people that live out there and pay taxes. I know you pay taxes too, but this is going to affect everyone's way of life. And it's wrong. It is totally wrong.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Any additional information?
No, sir.
Public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are any questions or comments, commissioners? I know this has been on your website and posted for last month, so it's been on there for 2 months. But I agree that if you don't know to look at planning and zoning and the agenda, you won't see it. Where else is it?
It is
gonna
also-
be made so everybody can see it.
Sure. It is also posted in, the notification is posted in the Leavenworth Times. I understand not everybody gets the Leavenworth Times, but that is the county's newspaper. That's where we publish it. We also post the notifications on our website, and just for everybody's, so everybody knows, the Friday before Planning Commission, and Planning Commission is always the second Wednesday of every month. The Friday before, the packet is posted. By 3 o'clock at the latest, without fail.
Well, I know it, and I think
But that's what I'm
we
saying.
all know it, but I don't know if all the public knows.
Right, the Friday before the second Wednesday, it is posted. And again, the notifications are made in the newspaper, and they are also put on our website. I understand people's frustration about not being notified, but there are 40,000 residents in the county.
Yeah,
We can't do it.
You can't send mail
We
out to
can't.
every resident on something like that, but I think there's got to be something on the front page of our website, on the county site, where it says what's going to be coming up. I just think it's got to be easier to find.
Our notifications are on the front page. They're under public notice.
May I ask a question? I simply have a question, I don't have a comment. Perhaps the meetings are being notified on the website, but if these work groups are open to the public, how are they communicated? How do we know what time and where?
They're on there,
They're on
too.
the agenda, yeah.
They're on there, they're on the agenda too, yeah. They're all on there.
Obviously, these
Just
are
need to
not-
know where to look, and yeah, that's the
You gotta know where to
problem.
look.
Well, it needs to be, you say, all the notifications are on the public,
Right.
but not actually, the material isn't on there, correct?
The material, so the actual packet is posted on the Friday before the second Wednesday.
Right.
Yes, and anybody who wants a paper copy can
And
come
that's
to our
as soon as
office.
we get it too.
Correct,
You know,
yes.
We
With-
get it no sooner than that either.
Correct. As you all
But
know,
this-
we're on a
this
revolving
table of
deadline.
uses has been on there for over a month because it was
Yes.
on
No,
there
it
for
is
the last
not.
month.
It was made available last Friday. That's when it
The
was made
actual-
available to the public as part of the package.
Wasn't it on last month?
No,
No,
no, it's not.
no, that's what Commissioner Stephen told us to look this Friday.
Well,
I believe it was there last month, but we tabled it, didn't we?
The public notice about this particular item is not on the website. It might have been on the website for the first time that it was scheduled, but it is not there talking about
correct?
this meeting.
It's on
There's
the-
no public notice saying that it was continued to this time.
Was it on?
Yes, it was on, and I believe that the table, I mean, I
Your
can
words
pull it
are
up
mine.
right now.
It wasn't there when I looked the other night. Sorry, I don't mean to be offensive, but
That's, okay, well, that's.
Also-
material. It's not material right now.
I don't mean to interrupt, but when I requested the table of uses on December 3rd in conversation with planning and zoning staff, I was told it was unavailable at that time. It would be made available to the public that Friday, which is last Friday. So it was unavailable to the public until last Friday, which is why people feel like it's been sprung on them. We did not sprung on them. We did not see the table of uses until then.
Thank you. And perhaps a nice article in the Star, in the Times, in the Lawrence Journal about the table of uses, the removal of our rights, the lack of 3 months approval for
Ma'am?
developers. That would all be helpful for people to really understand what's going on.
Well, it will be on the website, but it's, I mean, we see it the Friday before, that's when we did it. and you'll get it at the same time we get it, but again, yeah, you have to know where to look. I still think it needs to be harder people to find. What do you guys think? I mean, you guys know where to look, and you go to the website and look.
Yeah, we get a link
Do you think
there.
it's easy to find?
Well, I'd read the.
Oh, we know where to
Little
look.
Times, it's
Right.
always posted there.
And we get a link. We get a link when we're informed that it's out there. We do get
Okay.
information that it's
But
out there.
it's on the website too. You know where to go on the website to see it before the link, before she posts the link?
I'm pulling
I
it.
don't do that, but I'm sure I could figure it out.
Yeah.
It's easy when
Can
you
you
send.
pull it up?
when you
I'm
send
pulling it up right now.
All right.
Yeah. When you send it out and you tell us what the link
Where it
is.
is.
Well, she
Yes.
gives a link.
Correct, we
already.
send
She
you-
gives us the link,
Yeah, when you
but
send out.
That's just for us.
I actually go on a little before and I get it just to, I'm reading it when Stephanie sends me the link, so
Okay.
I already have it because I know where to look and I know it comes out on Fridays. But,
That's where I go.
Yeah, and I'm the same way.
So you
I
can
get
go up to
when I get
government
the
office
link.
and then planning and zoning will be
go
down.
up to government offices.
Offices.
And then pull down planning and zoning.
So the planning and zoning agenda is located under, sorry, I can't see, planning and zoning, PC, BZA agenda on leavenworthcounty.gov.
And if you click on that, it brings up our
That
whole
goes out
packet.
Friday. On the home,
Yeah, it's long, and
It-
it takes a while to download
Right.
it, so if you're slow.
it gets
internet-
replaced every month, we don't.
Right.
And then,
And the table of contents is published on there, right?
I'm
Table of
sorry.
contents is on that site.
Yes.
The right, the current table of
And
contents.
our rules and regulations are on that website, and I know somebody brought about definitions of kennels, just like we did on the kennel earlier, it's there. The definitions of all that is on there, also on our regulations.
And there
Now,
are
they
the public
long, and
notices.
they do take some reading, but they're there to
Right.
look at, and I encourage everybody to do it. I really do. It's and read through all the regulations. It's not the most interesting for most people. It is for me because I'm interested in that, but not everybody would probably find that good reading material, but it's all there. Okay, anything else, guys?
I've got a couple
Don't
Comments?
we have to make a decision now whether we're going to table it up?
Well, we need either vote, yeah.
We'll make a motion.
I'll either have a
I got a
motion.
couple comments first.
Yeah, we're still in comment
Yeah,
period. that's
okay,
why.
Mr. Van Paris recommended tabling.
Point of order. Have you closed the public hearing?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe, yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I go, Dave? Okay.
Sure.
Mr. Van Paris recommended tabling for legal review at the beginning. And there's been a number of things brought up through there, and possibly one of the articles, and this, the other things we could look at, could be mining added in there, because mining is a big, obviously a big issue. And it covers sand pits, coal, all the other resources that are in the county, and that might resolve some of those issues. It appears that there are some regulations that need to be looked at based on what audience has mentioned, and I think we need to ensure that we are in compliance with the state and other applicable regulations, which Mr. Van Paris, I know, could bring us up to date. So I think my personal idea is that we ought to table it until a date to be determined after the legal review and ensure that we are in compliance.
They suggested February, that should give us plenty of time.
If that's,
Yeah, that should give us plenty
if that'll work for Mr. Van Paris.
Maybe we can
that's
make a
gonna take
motion
little
to
bit.
do that.
Yeah. I mean, let's make sure we don't have any more questions of us. Do we have any more questions or comments? I want to hear from you guys, so. We heard a lot of comments from the public. We need to consider all what they said, but you have
Well,
any
I guess
comments?
my comment would be that I see the changes that were made. I really don't know how we got to there, but I don't want to come and sit with these dear ladies for a day just to figure it out. Sometimes it's almost like a missing link because you suddenly see the changes there, But I personally don't feel like I have enough time to get the new information and then to go back and do review on it and say, well, why have we changed this and why? That's why I had requested maybe another work session just to go over some of this stuff to find out, is this a Kansas regulation? Are we borrowing this from Overland Park? You know, those kind of questions where we are getting these changes. I mean, we've had, is this our third edition? I'm thinking this is the third time we've got a modified version or not. I seem to have 3 of these now.
It's the second, yes.
This is only the second one?
Yeah.
Well, I would encourage us to consider maybe just going over some of this stuff again.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that a bit. So, like that, a lot of that, and there was explanations in the ones we got, why they did it, and a lot of it, just like Crystal said, was some things were listed 2 or 3 times.
Well, yes, and
that,
I recommend.
there was some changes to some things, like the gravel thing.
Yes.
That was a drastic change, that it made it not allowed in a lot of districts, but it did still make it allowed in I-3, so.
Yes.
That is one of the changes that came into that, so. Any other comments?
Yeah, I reviewed, and I was through it pretty well last week. And I was astonished. We looked at this for basically 1 hour in one meeting in a work session. It's obviously far more complicated. What I was really astonished about was the fact that I compared the zones, and that's the reason I asked that the County Road 1 and the others be put side by side so it'd make it easier to compare. But what I didn't realize till I really started getting into it, that the things that were in the old regulations as far as the table of uses, a lot of changes have been made in there as far as what the use was. And that bothered me. And as a commissioner, I just don't feel that I have the right facts I need to make an intelligent decision at this time. And I think it should be tabled. In fact, and I think we should review it more. And when you're ready for a motion, I'm ready to make one.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay.
Unless somebody else, I mean, I want to give
If you got any
everyone
more
else
discussion.
a chance to say something. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I wish to move that the consideration of the table uses be continued over until the meeting of February 12, 2019, and I'd also like...
2020.
When was it?
2020.
Oh, it said 19?
Yeah.
This one, okay. Okay, and I also want the hearings to be continued. Also. The table of uses will directly impact all other regulations of the county, and it's worth time. Us taking our time to ensure that we do it properly. I have several questions myself, and I'm not sure what all the tables entail, and I like to go through them line item by line item on everything on the deal.
I mean, under a plastic.
And I'd like to have some more work studies with staff.
I'll second that. Okay, we got a motion on the floor to second table. You want me to repeat it, you're going to have to give that paper to me.
Well, you can't read it the way it's written.
All right.
We're about ready to adjourn.
Do you want me to?
Anyway, it's tabled to February the 12th.
Right, in the year 2020.
2020.
And I also want the public hearing to be continued also.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to table the motion till February the 12th. Is there any further discussion? I really would like to have work session on this.
We will get it set up.
And I mean more than an hour work session.
Yes.
Like a 4 hour, at least a couple 4 hours.
1 hour is not going to be enough.
Sorry, I can't really hear you very well.
1 hour is not going to be enough. We need
Sure,
a
we
longer
will,
one.
we will call you all this week and we will set up a time.
And publish it, please, so we know.
Oh, the work session.
It will be on the agenda. There will be an agenda for the work
It will be
session.
agenda, it will be on the website. Again, we showed you where the website is, so let your friends and family and any neighbors know where they can find this information, because it's there. It's just, I know if you didn't When told, you probably would have trouble finding it, but it's there. Oh, so anyway, we haven't voted yet, so any other discussion?
I have one question, Rocky, on your motion, and it may be a procedural thing, but should we just say at a time and date to be determined, instead of putting it on February? Again, we're without a director right now.
Well, I'm sure we could extend it if we had to.
Well, that's why I said it could be a procedural thing, but what I don't want to have happen is a lot of people show up to February and it has been continued.
Well, it would be, again, it'd be on the website.
It'd be on the website, but obviously we have some problems and issues.
Well,
And if it's, I'm not saying I'm not going to vote for it, but I'm just throwing it out there.
I agree with
That's
Mark.
too much.
This is,
Yeah.
And that may
it's going to take some time.
Can we do that?
Comment on that.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, you conducted a public hearing generally, since notice went out for that. If you're going to continue the hearing past today, I would prefer that you take a date certain. However, if you feel that you'd rather simply table it to a date to be determined, as long as you let people know when that date arrives.
Absolutely. And
I would prefer, talking to myself, have a date we can shoot for, and if we can't make it, then post it. Because that way, everybody knows February the 12th, it's a dead date for us, so we can't say, well, we can't push it off any farther. But it's a date that's solid, everybody here knows February the 12th, unless it's posted on the website.
And I would say make it March.
I
Just to
agree.
give it a
And
month.
whatever you guys want to do.
I agree.
Sounds better.
I agree with Mark.
What's the date in March?
We're not going to get anything done in December. 'Cause
We got all of January,
Yeah, we have
That's 30
to.
days.
plus half of February.
12 does.
That's
No, not
almost
even,
45.
not even 12.
Thank you.
No, because
What is
12
it?
is when we
March
have our
11th.
meeting.
11.
Okay,
March 11th?
okay. I will amend my motion to change the date till March 11th.
Wolf, you good with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we're tabling it to March 11th.
Can I make a copy of your motion?
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. John Matthews,
No,
and why no?
I think we ought to be able to do it in February and not wait until March.
Okay. Terry Bronkowski,
Yes?
Mark Danny,
Yes.
Alex, oh, he's not here. Wolf Smith,
Yes.
Rocky Hempel,
Yes.
Jeanette Holdeman,
Yes.
Jeff Spink,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Just so we get it done, that makes me know. So it passed 1-0 to table to March 11th.
Will you let us
Anything
know
else?
if the meeting does not go as scheduled?
It will be on the website.
If it doesn't happen, it will be on the website?
Well, it
So
would-
you can come to find out that we are.
It would be on our agenda, and it would say that it was postponed or something like that.
If it came to be that we knew it was not going to be heard,
February, we could announce it.
then we would post on the agenda that it's being tabled to April.
If you
If,
look on the agenda, we had one table today, and it was case number DV for a Pierce subdivision, and it says table to January 8th. That's what it says on the agenda.
So what was the date?
Anything else?
March.
We're adjourned.
sir.